Good morning. I have to apologise for all that. My mouse was working until I came up here to the table and the mouse just died then. So, tá sé go háin den Charles Cromil Mahagov Sachten good out ar halt Lawton Chéilleachair. We're very happy to be here. I'm here with my Cahirlach of the Board of Directors, Nasni Hulan. So we're finding the whole conference very interesting. So we're here, I suppose, and it's maybe of interest to you that when Tuismitheoirí and the Gaeltachta came into being, we were at the same stage of events in the Irish language that you are in now. The Chéilleachair, which is the Irish language version of the Gaelic crisis in the vernacular community, that was published in 2007. And there was a lot of talk about it and a lot of coming and going. And then in 2010, the Stornoway was published, which was a reaction, or was because of their Chéilleachair. So we came into being during that era, and I suppose that's the era that you're going through now with the Gaelic language. So you might see similarities, and you might see something that you're interested in. What I'm going to show you is very practical. There's no statistics or anything like that there, but and I usually do, anytime I'm presenting, I use loads of pictures because you get a feel and an understanding of what we do by the pictures, and they're lovely pictures because they're very positive and lovely things. So Tuismitheoirí and Gaeltachta, and what we are tasked with doing is to lend support for Irish-speaking families in the Gaeltacht areas. We work exclusively within the Gaeltacht. We don't deal outside the Gaeltacht. It's not that we're ignoring them, it's that that's what our job is. So that's what we'll be talking about today. As with maybe the Gaelic language, there's a lot of kind of doom and gloom about the Irish language and that it's dying and it's this and that. And we purposely worked with the families, and we came up with a motto, which is we are the next generation. So to instill a belief that there will be next generation, and that's the start point, I suppose. So today, hopefully, it's a kind of a whistle stop now at this stage because I've lost 10 minutes. But I'll give you some background information about Tuismitheoirí and Gaeltachta, then some information on the families with the Irish language in the Gaeltacht, and then I'll talk a bit about our work model that we have developed, and then I'll talk about our specific language policy that is kind of unique to us as well. So a bit of the background. We were established, I suppose, I say established, but it's coming into being really because what happened in 2011 is a group of like-minded parents came together completely informally, and we came together to create, I suppose, little social events for our families and for our children. Of course, then it kind of snowballed and it grew very quickly, and we quickly found out that if we want to do anything, we had to get money. To get money, we had to put a cush our bun and, you know, a committee and all that. So we kind of came together in 2001. In 2011, the economy wasn't very good. We knocked on a lot of doors. We were refused, told to go away, and kind of not believed that there was, I suppose, an appetite for this in the Gaeltacht. They thought we kind of just were chancing our arms. But that changed. And in 2014, Ryan the Gaeltachta, which is the department, a government department for the Gaeltacht, came to us and asked us what we wanted in terms of money, funding. So we're funded from 2014 to 2018, very limited funding, and it was written into our contract that we weren't allowed to employ anybody. So in 2018 then, we were approached again by Ryan Gaeltachta, and we were asked would we be interested in working nationally. When we started off, we were only working in Connemara, but now we're working in all the Gaeltacht areas. As you know, maybe the Gaeltacht in Ireland is now divided into 26 language planning areas. So we're working in each of those 26 language planning areas now. So today we only have 6 people employed, 26 language planning areas around Chéilleachair. It doesn't really work, but that's the way we are. I'm the canopy, the head, I suppose. There's no real English word for it. We have an efforts administrator, and we only have 4 development officers working in those 26 language planning areas. We have at the moment in and around 2,100 families on our database, and which interact with us on a regular basis. And we work closely with the language planning officers. There's a language planning officer employed or soon to be employed in each of the language planning areas. We work very closely with them in the 26 language planning areas. Why were we established, or why did we come together in the first instance? And this is echoing a lot of what I've heard today, and it's actually it rings true for us as well. We wanted to emphasize support for the native speaker. Traditionally in the Gaeltacht, the problem was when somebody came in, particularly to the schools with no Irish, how would we teach, how to teach that child Irish to a level that they could converse with their peers and that they could learn through the language of instruction, because the language of instruction was Irish. So that wasn't a problem because the Gaeltachts were rich and everything was very nice, but that has changed a lot, particularly in the last maybe 10 or 20 years. And the understanding of that hasn't really changed at the same time. So the emphasis is a lot of the time, most of the time, still on the learner and not on the native speaker. Indeed, in the Irish language education system, the native speaker of Irish wasn't recognised in the language in the education system until 2016. So our children, we weren't recognised as language speakers, native speakers. We aim to try and influence language habits among children as well, because they are influenced by the dominant language, and regardless of what the language of the home is, the children of the Gaeltacht now are conversing in Irish or in English from a younger and younger age, with no real reason for it. We wanted to instill confidence into children and themselves. It's not only us that say this. We just we have taken this from other people. In any classroom in the Gaeltacht, the native speaker are among the least confident of the children, and we wanted to change that, or to try and change that. Their confidence in themselves and confidence in themselves as native speaker, that they can be strong enough and confident enough to use the language rather than to revert to English. And then in the language in general, to normalise the language, that they treated the same as the English language. And then, of course, to create a support network with parents and to provide a language sanctuary for the families as well, to provide a place where they could come, nothing else, only Irish, and that they'd have no undue influence from English, that they would, feel that they had to revert to English. We're very much a community-based organisation. We're not a funding organisation. We are involved in all our initiatives. We are on the ground and we are working. We don't give funding for an event to take place. We develop and supply support materials. We work with other community organisations and with our OPTs, or the Ifigig Planoritangan, and we provide material always in dialect when possible. Just at the last few minutes of the last session there, the speaker spoke about standardisation of the language and how that kind of takes from the confidence. We want to let the families and the children know that this belongs to them, and if they see it in their own canúnt or in their own dialect, there's more of a chance that it'll influence them, and that it'll build their confidence. Because a lot of the time, children come home from school with books and they don't know the words. They're native speaker, but they don't know the words. They've never heard of the difference, and it's standardised Irish, and a lot of the time, they lose confidence because of that. We also commission research, and some of this research, I suppose, gives a kind of a picture of what the Irish language amongst families is like in the Gaeltacht. We commissioned a research in 2019, and we were working in a vacuum. Everybody is working in a vacuum, in the Gaeltacht at the moment. We don't know how many families are raising their children to Irish in the Gaeltacht. There's no question on the census in Ireland what is the language of the home. There is in other languages, except for Irish and English. So it's a bit ridiculous. And if that question was in there, we would have figures, we'd know what we were working with, and we wouldn't be working in the vacuum that we're working at the moment. So we commissioned research and to provide the best possible picture of what we were dealing with. Now, this isn't 100%, but it's the best that we have at the moment. And what we came up with was that there was 2,889 households raising their families through Irish in the Gaeltacht. This equates to 23% of the 12,500, you could say, households in the Gaeltacht. That was higher. We broke it down in the 26 language planning areas. It was very high in some areas. Ilan Tori, Marhampla, up after Donegal was up to 80%. And then there was parts of Galway City that were under 1%. So the average is 23%. More interestingly, I think, it was found that just over 4,000 of the 25 or so thousand children in the Gaeltacht spoke Irish on a daily basis outside the education system. So where else would they speak Irish outside the education system? They're not working. They wouldn't go somewhere every day. You know, they could be out childminders, but that wouldn't be, you know, weekends as well. So we figured that that's at home. Now, that's a lot lower. That's 16%. So the truth is someplace between the 16 and the 23% there. Again, it's much higher in areas than others. So we go on to our work model, and we've developed a work model which recognised three main areas of support. And this is based on the level of control that the parent has on language choices. Now, I use control, and control is used now a lot in kind of a negative sense. You know what I mean by control, that they can control the actual, you know, language choices rather than they're controlling. So home, community, and then state services, and we include education in this. In the home, of course, there's almost 100% control, and that there's, you know, work is very easy. That control lessens, of course, when you go out into the community, very little control over what, you know, language is used or what language you can choose as well. And then we go on to state services, and excluding education, I suppose, there's little or no control a lot of the time, particularly health services. So that's what we work with, and that of course there's grey areas, and it's not all, you know, black and white. So we have a very wide brief. So I'm just going to give a few samples of the work we do in each of these areas. So one of the areas we work with Somalia or in the home, which is Bobby Malach, and that literally means the baby's on the way. So that is an antenatal workshop, and we bring in the mothers and the fathers before the baby is even born, and we give them a workshop. We have we've put together a panel of practitioners, midwives, doctors, community nurses, a lot of natural practitioners, doulas, pregnancy, yoga, aromatherapy, massage, a lot of that. So they come in for the day, they have their massage, and they have their, you know, all those lovely things. And we have lunch, and then more nice things after that. And then in the end, we slip in, we've developed a kind of a workshop, a small workshop on language choices. And we work with mindfulness practitioners, and they have developed mindfulness techniques and visualizations based on visualizing the little baby. When the little baby comes on, you know, home from hospital, and you're, you know, cradling your little baby and you're singing songs and everything. And all this visualization happens. And the next thing they ask the question, now what language are you speaking? So that often wakes the parent, mother particularly, up and says, oh my God, I was speaking English and I want to speak Irish. Or, oh my God, I was speaking Irish, I never thought I would. So that wakes up, and then we tell them, right, on the way home, Daddy is with you as well now. You can have a nice conversation on the way home, and you can make your choice, because nobody can make that choice. It's a very personal and a very private thing. And whatever choice is right for the parent, that's the right choice. But at least we want to give them the chance to make that choice, and that's the aim of this. And they get a lovely bounty pack as well. and we would talk about identity and everything like that. And Mission Maheen, which translates as me, myself. And that's the start of identity, that the baby is a person and that everybody kind of sees it as a person, and that if we kind of develop that, well, then that's, that's a good start. We also have a language support pack. Families can apply for that, and they get a box of lovely books and CDs and everything like that. We go to the public, then the community, and this is often based on the community of the child. When we talk about community, we talk about going to the shops and everything that adults do. But think of the child at the moment. What is the community of the child? Who are the community of the child? So that's what we work on. And you have to look at it from the child's perspective, because if you look at it on the adult's perspective, it doesn't relate and it won't work. We often social interaction as well. We work on that, and what we do is we organise our own initiatives. We from the start didn't want to try and influence groups that were there anyways, and events that were on anyway, because there's often a level of confrontation. There's often different things going on. So we said, if we do our own thing, people are welcome to come there. These are the terms, and it worked. People liked it. So some of our communities initiatives are baby massage, and again we work on that bond with the mother in particular and the child, and there is a lot of bonding in that first 6 weeks and in the months afterwards, and it's a very special time and a very actual a very vulnerable time. That's it. Very vulnerable time in the mother's life. You're home with a new baby. You don't know what to do with the baby, and you don't. And then you start to build up this kind of bond with the baby. And we believe if that's done in an Irish environment and through the Irish language, that'll strengthen the mothers, particularly the mothers as fathers as well. But it'll strengthen that resolve, to raise the children to Irish. So baby massage is a recognised form of bonding, and it came from India, and it's lovely. We also have baby of late weaning, and we have all the new trends, baby sensory, and all those wonderful things. Buggy buddies, the parents literally just go out walking, and but it's a bonding thing as well. And parents bond with each other as well as the babies. We have Gligini as well, which is our parents and toddler groups, so we've great fun at Gligini. And I just want to mention in particular that picture, that's all actually my own little fella. And we used to visit the old people's home as part of Gligini. But a very nice thing that when, one of my neighbours heard it, she came in and she said, "Oh my God, you're taking your children to the place where the best Irish in Ireland is." So, and it was, and that was lovely. And the effect that the young children had on the older residents of the care home and vice versa was lovely. And we used to bring in books, and they used to read books to each other, and the children used to read books to the old people as well. So we have Sheamston and Oak for older people, or older families as well, older children, and that'll be based on the family just going out and having a social event and everything like that. How am I? We have, of course, the Armada. 19 minutes. Oh, right, okay, you've done a while. We found then that these Sheamston and Oaks were brilliant, and families used to come. It was a great time, got to know people, but it was sporadic, and you wouldn't have the same group of families coming, and then there was no networking done. So there was a lot of effort gone into organising the events, but then the networking wasn't really happening. So we put together an initiative called Gaeltachta, which means company, and it means a lot more than company actually. It means kind of a nice, happy company, sportul, and it's das Gaeltachta, So what we do with Gaeltachta is each of the 26 language planning areas have a chance to apply for Gaeltachta, and we hold events for the same 20 families. So we pick 20 families, or they apply for, and there's 20 families. So there's up to 4 or 5 events in the year for these 20 families. They get bounty packs. They, they get to know each other better, maybe, and particularly new people to the area and everything like that. So here's a couple of pictures of Gaeltachta. This is Ilan Hori, which is the strongest Gaeltacht area. And I think every family on the island, I think, is in Gaeltacht. There's 17 families, only 17 families on the island. Then this is Rockcarn. Rockcarn is the second smallest Gaeltacht in Ireland. We're always fighting about that. I'm from the smallest Gaeltacht in Ireland, and I know it's the smallest Gaeltacht, so that's why I know Rockcarn is the second smallest. And it was Gaeltacht that filled up like that in Rockcarn. There's 20 families, you know, without even really advertising it. There was a huge interest in it. And then we have the daddies. And guess where the daddies are from? Michal Fulham. Guidor. So we've great daddies in Guidor. So it's great and it's wonderful, and you know what, the whole positive of it is wonderful. Going from the positive to the not so positive, this is the part of the work that's not really very nice, and that is the advocacy and basically trying to get our rights from, you know, and not only our rights but our children's rights, which is a lot more kind of personal and puts us in a very vulnerable position as well. So we were heavily involved in the policy done the education policy in the Gaeltacht. One particular big win that we had, and I'll just go through it very quickly. It seems very kind of flimsy, but it was lovely. When the schools locked down in Ireland, everybody went into a tizzy, and they were locked down for about a week. And the next thing, RTE, which is our state broadcaster, we like the BBC, came out and said, okay, we're going to have a schools programme, 11 to 12 every morning. Every child in the country can sit in front of the television and get their home education, and everybody was delighted. But of course, when we heard it, the first thing that we said, aha, but what language will it be in? And what about our children who are native speakers, who may not have any Irish, and who are going through Irish language education? So I rang RTE, and it was obvious that they hadn't even thought about it. I rang the Department of Education. They hadn't even thought about it. I rang Ryan the Gaeltachta. They let on, they hadn't really thought about it. Then I rang Chéilleachair. And to be fair, the door was half open. They were trying to think of what they could do. But at that stage, they had a lot less funding than RTE, obviously, and that they were thinking of maybe an internet or something on YouTube or anything like that. And we told them, no, do you know what? If the English-speaking community have this, we need it as well. It's not only in the Gaeltacht, but outside the Gaeltacht, because there's Gaelic medium education outside the Gaeltacht. So we put them in contact with somebody in the Department of Education, because they were supporting RTE. And a week later, it was advertised that there'd be an Irish language homeschool program on Chéilleachair every morning. So, and not only that both of us, but it was a lifesaver, I can tell you, because it gave us all a chance to just, you know, because I wasn't going to put my children sitting in front of a television as Béarla. So going on to our language policy, and this is the last thing. We have a particular language policy. It's very easy to say, okay, look, you know, we'll do it through Irish, but then, you know, that doesn't work if you don't actually implement some kind of a measure to ensure that everybody understands what's going on, and that they, you know, that they're, you know, anyways, you know yourselves. Everything that we provide, we seek to provide that language sanctuary, the Tiarmantanga, that the children are not pressured by any other language, and that they're not pressured into speaking English. Mm-hmm. And that is, you know, it's not the fault of the child. The child only does what they see around them. So if they don't see any English around them, they're not going to speak English. Well, you know, they might, but, you know, they kind of, you know, less of a chance. So what we have developed down through the years is a kind of a couple of buffers before the actual event, so that everybody is on the same page. All our events, initiatives, everything, they're all advertised in Gaeilge 1. We don't advertise bilingually. And the language policy is stated clearly, and I'll show you some of the posters now in a minute. Then all parents are asked to register, and when they register, they're asked to sign a language policy. So before they actually come to the event, they have the buy-in, they know what to do, and they're ready to go. So some of our posters here. This would be a kind of a storytelling session. This would be a reading club or a book club, and this would be our Ligini. And as you see down at the end here, she's basically the whole project. Irish is the language of the event. Irish is the language of the event. Somewhere there, it's there. And Irish is she going like in the whole code. He said yes. So they're asked to register, and when they register, they get back the language policy. This is the language policy, and it's written very beautifully in Irish. I tried to translate it. I'm not a translator, but you understand it. So the Irish language policy then is Tuismitheoirí is what we call ourselves, Tuismitheoirí Gaeltachta for short. Tuismitheoirí aims to make Irish the spoken language of children and young people amongst themselves. An all-Irish environment encourages children to use the language in a positive and natural way, but this cannot be done without the help and the support of the parents. So on behalf of all children or young people involved in Tuismitheoirí events and activities, we ask the parents to speak only Irish at the event, or when the children are being dropped off, if it's classes and that. Remind the children if possible. Every parent has their own way of, getting their children back on course, with the language. So remind the children if necessary that the Irish is the language of the event, because the children might be confused because there might be other events that they wouldn't use Irish at. And then there might be people who'd be caring for or visiting. A lot of times the babysitter will come, or mamo or dedo or something, or a neighbour, and just to remind them, that Irish language is the event. And then, of course, the Tuismitheoirí staff are available to support and to encourage all adherents to this. And that's a lot nicer, not as strict in Irish, but that's the way it came out when translated. So, Sinead, it's just a very brief kind of, overview of what we do and how we implement and how we provide that sanctuary and the Tuismitheoirí. My email address is there. You're all welcome, to contact me anytime. We love talking to other people about our work and finding out about your work. And again, it might be interesting that, we, from now until 10 years, you will probably, be going through the same as we have gone through the past 10 years. So, there's a lot of support to be had by kind of sharing your stories. And then Tuismitheoirí.ie is our CVDLE website.